Christine Brown, the former radiant spirit of Sister Wives, stood at the witness stand. Her blonde hair, graying now at the ends, was tied back in a gentle bun. Her eyes were red-rimmed but keen, sharp. They swept the courtroom, fixing for an instant on the man who had once vowed to her for forever. "He left me by myself in that house," she explained, her tone low but firm, her fingers nervously folding and unfolding a crumpled tissue. "For months. No love, no partnership, only silence." There was no noise in the courtroom. Even the judge was taken aback by how raw her voice was. No theatrics, only a woman bare to her truth. In the corner of the room, Kody Brown sat, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. His jaw was set, mouth twitching as if pushing away words. At his side, Robyn Brown, Kody's fourth and now married wife, sat. She stared ahead, her face expressionless, but her hand never once strayed to touch her husband's. Christine's eyes didn't even flicker to either of them. She wasn't here for them. She was here to testify for herself, after all these years of not being heard. "I was a spiritual wife," Christine explained. "That translated into no legal rights, no joint bank account, no protection, only a promise. And someday that promise disappeared." The prosecution presented evidence, journal entries, text messages, family group chats. They described it in vivid terms. Christine was being emotionally shut out months prior to her public declaration of 2021. A 2018 journal entry was read aloud. "He told me I complained too much, that he can't be everywhere at the same time. But Robyn's house receives daily drop-ins. 12 days and I have yet to see him. I am a stranger bearing his name." Christine dropped her eyes as the words were read out. Her attorney didn't have to push further. The anguish in the entries spoke for themselves. "This is not about money," the attorney explained to the court. "This is about decades of emotional deprivation. Our client was shunned, relegated, and made to feel unwholesome under the pretense of shared faith." Sister Wives fans had long wondered if something was not quite right, but the facts that came out in court left even longtime fans reeling. "He told me I wasn't obedient enough," Christine remembered testifying on the stand. "He said if I had been more submissive like Robyn, perhaps he could love me." There it was. A chill ran through the courtroom. Robyn caught Kody's eye, but he didn't even glance in her direction. He was too focused on glaring down the table. When Kody Brown testified, he seemed irritable to even be there. "I did my best," he intoned. "Nobody ever said plural marriage was going to be easy." Christine knew that day one. The judge arched an eyebrow. "Mr. Brown, are you accusing Miss Brown of lying?" "I'm accusing her of having expectations that weren't part of our lifestyle," Kody said. "She wanted monogamy. That was never the agreement," the court whispered. Christine's lawyer stood and asked quietly, "Did you ever tell her you loved her?" Kody paused. "Once," he said. "When we were younger, before she changed." That was when Christine finally lost it. Tears swelled in her eyes, but she did not cry for Kody. She wept for the woman she once was. The one who attempted to smile despite neglect, provide a home for 6 children by herself, and lie in wait night after night, hoping he would stop by like he once did. The courtroom doors swung open, and Gwendolyn Brown, Christine's daughter, strode in. She walked purposefully to the witness stand. "My mother was the glue," she said, her voice trembling. "She made birthdays happen. She kept the holidays alive. She was never enough for him, but she was everything to us." Gwendolyn paused. "I remember being 15 and asking why Dad never stayed the night. And Mom said, because we're not the favorite. That's how polygamy works. You have a rotation, until one becomes the queen." Christine looked down, blinking hard, and then a letter, one that made the whole room sit up. It was from Isabel, Christine's other daughter, the same daughter who had undergone extensive scoliosis surgery, all by herself. "He didn't attend my surgery. He said the rules forbade it, but he was at Robyn's house that week. I know because it was on TV." The judge looked noticeably uncomfortable now. Kody fidgeted in his seat, finally looking less calm. Christine wiped her eyes, but her voice, when she resumed speaking, was stronger than ever before. I raised our daughters to be strong, she said. I just didn't know I'd have to teach them strength by showing them how to walk away. When Christine stood to make her last word, she was no longer the timid third wife attempting to fit in. The shy third wife attempting to blend in was gone. Gone was the peacekeeper. What stood before the court was a woman who had reclaimed her voice. I'm not here for vengeance, Christine said. I'm here to make it clear that spiritual marriages without legal backing leave women unprotected. They leave mothers isolated. They leave hearts shattered in silence. She paused and turned toward Kody, meeting his eyes one last time. You shut me up for 25 years. You convinced me that I was selfish to love. You blamed me for your decisions. But I am not guilty. You are. The judge handed down his verdict. Though no monetary damages were enforceable because of the spiritual non-legal nature of the marriage, the judge made a formal pronouncement against emotional abandonment in spiritual marriages. He also requested state-level examinations into safeguards for women in polygamous environments. For Christine, it was sufficient. Leaving the courtroom, the media mobbed her, cameras popped, fans applauded, but Christine did not pause for interviews. She descended from those courthouse steps in dignity, the hand of her daughter in her own. This had nothing to do with TV ratings. This had nothing to do with Kody. This was Christine Brown's narrative. And for the first time in her life, she was the author. Christine sat upright now, her voice firmer, more resolute. I was wife number 3, but I didn't feel like a wife, she informed the courtroom. I felt like a placeholder. She gazed straight at the judge. Behind the camera we were a happy family. Behind the scenes I was disappearing bit by bit. The courtroom sat in frozen silence as Christine's lawyer approached the bench and held up a thick binder. These are Christine's personal journals, written over a span of 12 years, she said. What you'll hear next isn't just testimony. It's the inner voice of a woman who suffered in silence while the world applauded her family's lifestyle. The attorney opened to a bookmarked page and began to read aloud. He spent the evening with Robyn, 3rd time in a week. I cooked his favorite meal, cleaned the house, did truly science project myself. He didn't even come by to say goodnight. He tells me I'm too sensitive, too needy. But when I don't make demands, he doesn't even notice that I exist. Christine looked down, hands clasped in her lap. She wasn't crying. This time she was recalling, reliving. The lawyer went on. We shot a family picnic today. Everybody smiled. Kody kissed Robyn's cheek right in front of me. The producers asked me to laugh. So I did. But I felt invisible. Gasps echoed from the back row. A few courtroom observers, Sister Wives viewers who watched the show from season 1, were shaken. The camera never captured this rendition of Christine, the one who grinned while dying inside. Christine drew a breath, then addressed the judge directly. Your Honor, I didn't appear before you today to ruin my ex-husband's reputation, but I require the truth to be observed. I want my daughters to understand that silence regarding abuse isn't strength, it's fear. The judge nodded slowly, visibly shaken. Christine's attorney addressed the jury and said, imagine being part of a family and still feeling like an outsider. Imagine having 6 kids with a man who ceased to regard you as he began to notice someone new. At that moment, the room was heavier. This was no longer a trial. This was a reckoning. A reckoning with a system that permitted one man to use love as a rotation schedule. A reckoning with the emotional scars you can't see, but never quite recover from. Kody Brown didn't say a word. His eyes darted between the journals and Christine. For the first time he appeared uncertain, defensive, vulnerable. And Christine, she didn't smirk. She didn't gloat. She simply sat there, a woman who had endured it all. Kody Brown stood up from his chair like a man encumbered, not with remorse, but with hassle. He drew on his jacket deliberately, eyeing the gallery as if expecting to be able to garner some sympathy there. But the only noise was the ring of his boots, as he moved towards the bench. Even Robyn didn't look up as he went by. He adjusted the microphone and cleared his throat. Then, without glancing at Christine, he started in I never abused Christine. He stated curtly, not emotionally, not spiritually. I did the best I could in a very difficult dynamic. His words landed in the room like ice water. Christine watched quietly, eyes fixed but inscrutable. The judge settled back slightly. Waiting. Kody went on. When you're in a plural marriage, there are rules. There's structure. Christine wanted special treatment. More time, more attention. But that's not how it works. You rotate. You sacrifice. Christine's attorney moved forward. Mr. Brown, are you indicating that your client misinterpreted what a spiritual marriage is? She misinterpreted a great deal. Kody cut in. She figured if she was a third wife that she was entitled. I had 4 wives, 18 children, a TV crew. I gave what I could give. And what exactly did you give Christine? The lawyer asked, his voice steady. Kody let out a harsh breath. I gave her children. I gave her security. I gave her a place to live. If she didn't feel loved, maybe she wasn't being lovable. Gasps erupted from the back row. Even the bailiff raised his head. The judge gavelled once for silence. Christine blinked slowly. Her face showed no anger, only resignation. This was the Kody she had lived with for years. A man who believed affection was something women had to earn. Let me get this straight, the attorney said, his tone sharp. You're saying the burden of emotional connection was Christine's to carry? I'm saying I did what I could. Kody retorted. Defensively, she decided to be unhappy. I didn't make her unhappy. She unhappied herself. The attorney stopped. Is it correct, Mr. Brown, that you declined to attend with your daughter Isabel her spinal surgery? Kody's jaw tightened. I followed COVID guidelines. But you were filmed on the show attending Robyn's kids' dance recital the same week. That's different. Kody grumbled. To whom? The attorney asked. For the first time, Kody remained quiet. The courtroom fell silent. Sotto voce silence. That makes the truth ring louder than words. Christine shifted forward. Her voice steady but firm. You see, Your Honor, she spoke gently. That's how he excuses everything. If I was lonely, I was being ungrateful. If I needed his time, I was being demanding. If I cried, I was being manipulative. She confronted Kody for the first time throughout the whole testimony. All I ever wanted was for you to choose me. Just once. Not on TV. Not for the fans. For me. Kody averted his gaze. The judge cleared his throat and posed one final question. Mr. Brown, looking back now, do you have any regrets about how you treated Christine during your marriage? Kody hesitated for a long time. Then at last, I regret marrying someone who didn't know her place. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs. A few shouted words from the gallery. The judge gavelled harder this time. Order had to be restored. But the damage was done. That single sentence didn't just reveal who Kody was. It revealed everything Christine had endured. She didn't flinch. In that moment, she became more than just the third wife. More than a reality TV character. She spoke for all those women who had ever been told to mind their place. The doors to the courtroom creaked softly as the bailiff called the next witness. A silence settled when Gwendolyn Brown, Christine's forceful daughter, stepped into the room. She had on a black turtleneck, little makeup, and a hard expression. She glanced into the witness stand, hesitating for a moment, her eyes crossing her father's. Kody did not look up at her. My name is Gwendolyn Brown, she spoke firmly, and I'm here because I witnessed my mother live through something no woman should ever have to. She clasped her hands together and breathed in. My mom was the emotional heart of our home. She went on. She raised 6 of us pretty much on her own. She plotted birthdays, spent all night sewing Halloween costumes, cooked whole meals, did schoolwork. She was a supermom. And she did it feeling invisible. She fixed the judge with a glance. We all knew it. The kids knew. The cameras didn't capture it. But we lived it day in and day out. The lawyer moved forward slowly. Gwendolyn, can you tell me about your father's role during that period? She smiled sadly. We had to book time with him. If we were not at Robyn's place, then we didn't get to see him. And even when he visited, he wasn't there. He was on the phone. He was preoccupied. Or worse, he was fighting with Mom. She hesitated. When we said we missed him, he'd say, I'm doing my best. But his best always seemed to go to someone else. Kody shifted in his seat, crossing his arms tighter than before. His knuckles whitened. Then Gwendolyn's voice fell. One evening, I saw my mom crying in the kitchen. I asked her why. She said, Daddy doesn't love me anymore. I was 13. And I never forgot it. Christine dabbed at a solitary tear. But she didn't crumble. She nodded at her daughter with calm pride. Then the second emotional blow came, in the form of a handwritten note from Isabel Brown, who couldn't be present for the trial. The judge received the letter, read it out. When I had my spinal surgery in 2020, I begged my dad to come. I was terrified. I was in agony, but he didn't turn up. He said COVID regulations made it impossible. But we saw him on the telly that same week, playing with Robyn's children. Never left my side. Not for a minute. She was there beside me with my hand in hers, when they rolled me into surgery. She never ate. She never slept. She just remained, because that's what she does. The judge's voice caught a little bit. Even the court reporter hesitated before resuming typing. Kody kept his gaze down on the table, lips clamped shut. No defense, no rebuttal. Then the courtroom heard from Truly, Christine's youngest daughter, on video testimony, taken with a guardian in the room. Truly sat on her bedroom floor, among stacks of books and soft light. She stared directly at the camera and said, "When Dad stopped coming around, I thought I did something wrong. I thought maybe if I cleaned more or talked less, he'd stay longer. But he didn't. Then one day I asked him if he still loved Mommy. He said to me, 'That's a complicated question.' I was 9. It wasn't complicated to me." Christine pushed away from the video as it finished, visibly fighting to keep herself together. The courtroom was silent. Even Robyn had dropped her eyes to her lap. The attorney for Christine rose slowly. "Your Honor, this isn't about penalizing Mr. Brown. It's about recognizing what happened to this woman, and to her children. She didn't just endure neglect. She bore the emotional burden of a breaking marriage, with 6 kids to raise, and a facade to maintain that all was well. She guarded their reputation. She guarded his name. But who stood up for her?" The judge did not respond immediately. But everybody in that room already knew. Christine stood up once more, not out of necessity, but of choice. Following hours of grueling testimony, unfiltered journal entries, and shattering witness statements from her children, the courtroom remained silent as she took the stand for a final time. No scribbled notes, no attorney by her side, only Christine. But this time she stood taller. "I want to start by saying this. I'm not here to destroy Kody Brown," she said, her voice calm, measured. "I'm here to reclaim myself." Her eyes scanned the courtroom. Every person in the gallery, every Sister Wives fan, every reporter, every silent observer was riveted. "For more than 25 years I existed in a marriage that was lovely on the surface. Smiling children, home-cooked dinners, family vacations. The cameras caught what they were supposed to. But behind the closed door I was shrinking." She looked over at Kody briefly, then back at the judge. "I was supposed to settle for crumbs and be thankful. I was told that if I requested affection, I was being selfish. That if I needed quality time with my husband, I was being unreasonable." Her voice broke for the first time. But she didn't stop. "I raised our kids with love, discipline, and consistency. I did the cleaning. I homeschooled. I cheered from the stands. Oh! And when I was worn out and needed help, he vanished." She stepped forward, as if she was stepping out of his shadow at last. "Each time that I wept, he said I was too emotional. Each time that I pleaded for communication, he said I was too needy. And each time that he left my house to go to hers," she indicated Robyn slightly, "he said that I should be more understanding." Her voice turned from sadness to resolve. "I came today not because I seek revenge, but because I seek recognition. I seek women like me, in spiritual or unrecognized relationships, to know that emotional neglect is real, that your pain is real, and that you deserve to be seen." She paused, then completed, "Kody took my voice for 25 years. But today I'm taking it back. And I'm using it for every woman who thought being quiet made her strong." Silence. Not even the judge moved. Christine returned to her seat. She didn't look at Kody again. The judge took a deep breath, eyes heavy with the weight of what he had heard. "There are legal constraints here," he started, "because the marriage of Mr. Brown and Miss Brown was never legally valid. But that doesn't mean the hurt, the effect, or the abuse weren't real." He gazed directly at Kody. "Mr. Brown, your actions and your words, recorded over several years, disclose a pattern of emotional disregard, dismissiveness, and neglect." He addressed himself to Christine. Although this court is unable to exact financial compensation, it will render a formal statement that emotional injury in spiritual or plural marriages is genuine and deserving of public recognition. Your testimony will be documented as an example of the enduring hurt that spiritual abandonment can inflict. A quiet hum of assent rippled through the room. Christine shut her eyes, not to keep back tears, but to absorb the moment. Not triumph, freedom. Dozens of journalists waited outside the courthouse, behind barricades, microphones directed, cameras at the ready, fans monitoring live streams. Christine walked out the doors of the courthouse, hand in hand with Gwendolyn. She didn't say a word to the media. She didn't have to. Her message had already been sent. Loud, clear, and indelible. This wasn't about sister wives anymore. It wasn't about ratings. It wasn't even about Kody. This was about a woman who discovered her voice in a room where she was once silenced. And for the first time in decades, Kody Brown was heard.